Solid.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
If one left his house open and found it open, locked and found it locked, open, found it locked, it is tahor. Locked and he found it open, but may rule the tame, but it could come and rule the tahor, for there were thieves, but they changed their mind and then went on their way. If the wife of an Amaris entered the house of the Chaver in order to bring out his son, daughter, or animal, everything in the house is tahor, since she entered without permission. They stated a general rule concerning Tohoros. Any item designated as food for a human is tame until it becomes unfit even as food for a dog. But anything that is not designated as food for a human is tahor until it designated for a human. How so? If a pigeon fell into a vat and he intended to bring it up for a Gentile, it is tame. For a dog, it's tahor. For Yochanan ben Nuri rules, it's tame. And if a deaf, mute one who mentally deranged or a minor had intent, it is tahor. If he raised it up, it is tame, for they have an act but not intent.
Okay. Right, Zain. Achore Kalim. So we've learned, as you recall, in Maseches Kalim, that when you have, particularly with the Klecheres, they have an exterior and an interior. Okay, so the inside of a Klecheres has got, if anything Tame goes into the interior, the whole Kli is Tame, finished. But also when the outside has got handles, so the Chachamim made or any place to grip or something like that, or the exterior, or just has an exterior, or any kind of exterior that's clearly distinct from the interior. Then the Chachamim said that you can also have a tumah on the outside, but that doesn't affect the inside. Okay. So here we deal with our Mishnah is Acharei in the external side of the Kli. Shenitbu mashkim, and became tame from a liquid. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer mitam'in esa mashkin. So he says once it's become tame from a liquid, it itself can again be matame another liquid. V'ein poslin esa ochlin, but it doesn't affect foodstuffs. Okay, it'll only affect liquids. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, metamin is a mashkin or poslin is a ochlin. This is no difference whether it's food or liquid. Shimon Achi Azaria Omer lo kach v'lo kach. No, it's not. The Nach is like neither of these two. Ela mashkin shenitma'u ba'acharei hakelim metamin echad uposlin echad. Rather, liquids that became tame from the outside of the kli. We matame echad uposlin echad, which means that they're effectively a rishon, because they can be matame something to a sheni, and they'll puzzle a shlishi, which is truma. Hareziom, okay, which means that the solid that touched the outside effectively does not become tame. So Hareziom, so now the solid will say to the liquid, the thing that made you tame did not make me tame. In other words, outside of the kli. They are tatime sani, but nonetheless, you were able to make me tame. So we've seen that phrase a number of times in Tohoros and in Kalim, and it's just when you have that, and it usually involves liquids, because liquids themselves are a chiddush derbanan, how they become tame. Okay, yeah. Mishna ches. Areva shehi katafres. So you've got a bowl that's at a slant. Okay, so everything inside it is at a slant, and they will mistama will flow downhill. But batzek milamalan umashke tofeach milamatan. So you've got a bit of dough. You've got 3 little pieces of dough. We'll see. Okay, shalosh chatichos bekabetza. So you've got 3 pieces that together make up a kabetza, and those 3 pieces are separate inside the bowl, and there's water in between them, but it's on a slant. Okay, so the water mistama cannot be touching more than 2 of them at a time. So einan mitztarfos. So therefore they don't join. They won't join because the water is on a downhill slant, and it's typically flowing down. However, ushtayim, if you had 2 pieces each, half of a kabetza, and now there's water in between them, mitztarfos, those will join. Okay, and that makes a kibetza, and it'll be matame the liquid, and then the bowl. So sort of setting off your whole nuclear reaction. Okay, Rabbi Yossi Omer Av shtayim einan mitztarfos. He says no, even two. If you've got two half betas will not join together. Ele im ken hayurot tzotz mashke, unless they're actually floating in water, because unless they're like really close to each other, and they push push up the liquid between them. So he says just because you've got a little puddle of water in between them does not join them, according to Rabbi Yossi. However, if this is not in other words, it's not it's a puddle that's not flowing. The bottom of the kli is flat, so we're no longer talking about on a slant. So if the whole thing is standing flat, even if it's a little, even if the water is as much as a mustard seed, mitztaref, it will join the two pieces of dough into a kibetza, and that will allow the liquid to become tame, and that will then be matame the kli, etc. Rabbi Dosamer ochel parud eino mitztaref. He says, but if it's all scattered around, sorry, afilu ke'en chardal. Beg your pardon. When Rabbi Yossi says afilu ke'en chardal, he means that if the dough was scattered around in crumbs, little crumbs, even the size of a chardal, but together it's a kibetza, and there's water joining them, then he says that will make a kibetza of ochel.
Okay.
We're not talking about the chardal being water, we're talking about the dough being like chardal. And Rabbi Dosa disagrees, and he says no, if it's crumbed and broken into little pieces, then it will not join. Okay, halacha is not like Rabbi Dosa. It's like Rabbi Yossi. Wait, ain't halacha for Rabbi Yossi. Beg your pardon, halacha follows Tanakama. Okay, Mishna Tes. Makel shehi malea mashkin tmein. So you've got a stick that's wet with a tame liquid. Okay, so let's say, I mean, you've got you had a barrel of water, and somebody tame touched the water, so the water's all tame. And then somebody dropped a stick into the water and pulled it out. So now the stick is dripping wet with tame water. Now he takes the stick and puts it into the mikveh. Kevin she'shika la mikveh. As soon as he touches one bit of it into the mikveh, tahora, diva Rabbi Yeshua. So it says that the tara, because that's one of the things about a mikveh is that's particularly about tame water, not other liquids, only water. That if you touch tame water into a mikveh, it will become tahor. The mikveh actually is mataher, the water. And Rabbi Yeshua is adding the chiddush that not just if it's actually submerged, but even if it's just connected and it's on a wet stick, and it's all connected, then Rabbi Yeshua says all of the water, even the stuff that's not submerged, becomes tahor. No, he has to put the whole stick into the water in order for that water to become tahor. Okay, and that should be the halacha. Hanitzok, when somebody's pouring, like tafres, or something that is flowing on a downhill, or mashke tofech, or any kind of moisture that is stuck to some other kind of solid, einan chibur lo letuma velo letara. It's not a connection, not for tuma, not for tara. So, for example, lo letuma velo tara. So, for example, for tuma, if a tame person touched the bottom part of a stream of water that was coming out of a jug, that doesn't affect the water that's back inside the jug. So if he touched the water in the jug, then all the water in the jug would become tame. But if he's just touching the stream, it doesn't affect the water that's left in the jug. Okay, and not for tara either. So, for example, if there's a mikveh that doesn't have 40 sa'ah, and nitzok katafres mashke tofech mechaber mikveh kasher, and there's a stream of water connecting it to a kosher mikveh. So let's say there's a kosher mikveh that's overflowing, and now the stream it's a constant stream coming from the kosher mikveh into the unkosher mikveh. that doesn't count to make it into 40 sa'ah. So not for tumah, not for tara. However, if it's pooled, chibur l'tumah u'letara. So once water is pooled, then it can be connected both for tumah and for tara. So if there's a pool and there's water on the edges, well, let's say no, not groundwater, because groundwater we've learned is not susceptible to tumah. But let's say you've got some sort of a kli that's got edges, and a Tame person just touches something, a little drop of water that's connected to the rest of the kli, everything in there becomes Tame. That's when it's pooled. Similarly for Tara, let's say you've got a mikveh that's not kosher, and next to it you've got a mikveh that is kosher, and the mikveh that is kosher overflows, and it's pooled, so that the water now joins with the non-kosher mikveh. The non-kosher mikveh automatically becomes kosher. So that works for Tara as well. Okay, got it?
Got it. Oh,
let's go. Vav base.
okay. Vav base. There are four uncertainties in which Rabbi Yeshua rules: the uncertainty Tameh, the uncertainty of Tameh, and the sages rule of Tahor. How so? A Tameh person is standing and a Tahor person is passing by, or a Tahor person is standing and a Tameh person is passing by. By a Tameh person is in a private domain, and a Tahor object is in a public domain, or a Tahor object is in a private domain, and a Tameh object is in a public domain. There is doubt whether one entity touched the other entity or did not touch it, or there is a doubt whether it shared a roof with the other entity or it did not share a roof with it, or a doubt whether it caused the other entity to move or did not cause it to move. Rabbi Yeshua rules the Tahor, entity Tameh, but the sages rule the Tahor. Regarding a tree which was standing in the public domain and an object of tumah was in it, if one climbed to the top of the tree and there is doubt whether he touched the Tameh object or not, the certainty is ruled Tameh. If one inserted his hand to a toll that has an object of tumah in it, and there is a doubt whether he retouched the Tameh object, or did not touch it, the uncertainty is ruled Tameh. Regardless of a store, regarding a store which was Tameh and open to the public domain, and there is doubt whether one entered the store or did not enter it, the uncertainty is ruled Tahor. If there's a doubt whether he touched the Tameh item there or did not touch the uncertainty is ruled Tahor. Regarding two stores, one of which is Tameh, one of which is Tahor, and one entered one of them, and there is doubt whether he went into the Tameh one or the Tahor one, the uncertainty is ruled Tameh. As many uncertainties and certainties of certainties that you can add in a private domain, the uncertainty is ruled Tameh. But in a public domain, the uncertainty is ruled Tahor. How so? If one entered an alleyway and there was an object of tumah in the courtyard, and there was doubt whether he entered the courtyard or did not enter it, or there was an object of tumah in a house, and there was a doubt whether he entered the house or did not enter it, and even if he entered it, there is doubt whether the object of tumah was there or was not there, and even if it was there is doubt whether it consisted of the minimum measure of tumah or did not consist of the minimum measure of tumah, and even if it did consist of the minimum measure, there is doubt whether it is an object of tumah or is an object of tahara. And even if it is an object of tumah, there is doubt whether he touched it or he did not touch it. The uncertainty is ruled tameh. But Elazar rules that uncertainty regarding entry is ruled tahor, and uncertainty regarding contact with tumah is ruled tameh. If one,
That's
okay,
three Mishnas. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, para cheshai.
Okay. So what'd you say, Shul?
We're in para cheshai.
I thought we do. Oh, I thought we still on Tohoros. All right. Yeah.
We just finished
Okay.
Tohoros.
No, I had the other one out here. I guess I didn't put it away yesterday. Okay. Para. Hey. No, cheshai. All derivatives of tumah do not contaminate utensils, but they contaminate liquids. If a liquid contaminates tumah, it contaminates the utensils. Thus, this one says that which contaminates tumah to you cannot contaminate me, yet you can contaminate me. An earthenware vessel that cannot contaminate another earthenware vessel, but it does contaminate liquids. If a liquid contracts tumah, it contaminates it. Thus, this one says that which you contaminate, you cannot contaminate with me, yet you contaminate me. Anything that renders truma unfit contaminates liquids to be the beginning level of tumah, with the capacity to contaminate one and render another unfit one. except for a tevel yom. This one says that which contaminates you cannot contaminate me, yet you can contaminate me. Okay.
Okay.
Olios. Vav bet. Corpse bearers that will be passing under a portico, one of them will shut the door and close it with a key. If the door can remain closed by itself, the house remains tahor. But if not, the house remains tameh. A similar case would be where a barrel of dried figs or a box of straw was placed in a window. If the dried figs or straw remain in the place by themselves, the contained contents remain tahor. But if not, everything becomes tameh. A house was partitioned with jugs that were plastered with clay. If the clay can remain intact by itself, the other side of the house remains tahor. But if not, it remains tameh. A wall constructed by being a part of a house is ruled half and half. How so? An exterior wall contains tumah. If the tumah is in the inner half of that wall, the house remains tameh, and someone standing above the wall remains tahor. If the tumah is on the outer half, the house remains tahor, and someone standing above the wall becomes tameh. If the tumor is in the middle, the house becomes tameh. Regarding the person standing above the wall, Reb Meir declares him tameh, and the sages declare him tahor. And Reb Yehuda says the entire wall is ruled as part of the house. An internal wall contains tumah. The house that is closer to the tumah becomes tameh, and the one closer to the tahor remains tahor. If the tumah is in the middle, both become tameh. And there is tumah inside one of the houses, and there's the utensils inside the wall. Those are utensils in the half closer to the tumah become tameh, and the ones in the half closer to the tahor remain tahor. The utensils that are in the middle become tameh. There is tumah in the ceiling that is between the lower story of the house and the upper story. If the tumah is inside the house, lower half of the ceiling, the lower story of the house becomes tameh, but the upper story remains tahor. If the tumah inside of the upper half of the ceiling at the top, if the tumah inside the upper half of the ceiling, the upper story becomes tameh, and the lower story remains tahor. If the tumah is in the middle, both become tameh. If there is tumah in one of the stories, and there are utensils in the ceiling, the utensils that are in the half near the tumah become tameh, and the ones that are in the wall half near the tahor remain tahor. The utensils that are in the middle become tameh, and Rabbi Yehuda says the entire ceiling is ruled as if part of the other story. Okay. We go into Menachos. Yud Zion. Wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye are subject to kala and combine with one another. They are forbidden to be eaten as kadash before Pesach and from being reaped before the Omer. If they took root before the Omer, the Omer renders them permissible, but if not, they're forbidden until the following Omer. We may reap the irrigated fields in the valleys, but we may not stack. People of Yeriko reaped with the approval of the sages and stacked against the sages' witches, but the sages did not issue a protest against them. One may reap unripe grain and feed it to animals, said Rabbi Yehuda when it began before it reached the third. Rabbi Shimon says he may reap and feed it even after it has reached the third. We may reap for the benefit of the saplings for the place of mourning, and in order to avoid a procession of study. He may not make them into bundles, rather he leaves them in heaps. And the commandment of the Omer is that they should come from standing grain. If he did not find, he may bring from the sheaves. His commandment is that it comes from the fresh, and if he did not find it, he may bring from the dry. If its commandment is that it reap by night, and if it's reap by day, it's valid and overrules Shabbos.
Okay.
And yeah. Nazir. Okay. If one says a Nazir like I am a Nazir like the number of days of the solar year, he counts terms of Naziris like the days of the solar year. And Yehuda says there was an incident, and when he concluded, he died. If one says I'm sorry. If one says I'm a Nazir from dried figs, from pressed figs, which Shammai says he's a Nazir, but Beis Hillel says he's not a Nazir. And Rabbi Yehuda said even if what Beis Shammai said, they did not say, except for one who says they are not. They offer me a sacrifice.
Right.
If it
Okay.
said,
Hold on. You skipped Vav in the previous parak. You went straight to Zion.
sorry, all right, I started down. If one says I'm above, if I said I'm a Nazir from here until such and such a place, we calculate how many days journey is from here until that place. If it's less than 30 days, it's a Nazir for 30 days, and if not, he's a Nazir for that number of days.
Okay, Adkan. That's good. Okay, so then tomorrow we'll pick up from base.
Right.
And
And challah. Okay. One may take the challah quantity from dough from which challah had been not yet separated to make it a state of cleanliness. In order to go on separating from challah of the mai until it rots, the challah of the mai may be taken from the clean, for the unclean, and from that which is not nearby. If Jews were arisim of non-Jews, if Jews were arisim of non-Jews in Syria, Rabbi Eliezer declares their produce liable to masris and to the laws of the 7th year. The Ramagil exempts them. Ramagil says 2 chalot in Syria, but Rabbi Eliezer says 1 chalot. They adopted the lenient ruling of Rabbi Gamliel and the lenient ruling of Rabbi Eliezer, and they retracted and both followed the ruling of Rabbi Gamliel in respect to both. Okay. Come on. Rabbi Gamliel says there are three lands regarding challah, from Ezra to Kiziv, from challah, from Cheziv to the river, and up to Amana, from chalos, 1 for the fire, 1 for the priest, and 1 fire for the one, and for the fire has a measure, but the 1 for the priest has no measure. From the river and Amana inward to chalos, 1 for the fire, 1 for the priest, and the 1 for the fire has no measure, but the 1 for the priest has a measure. And a table yom may eat it. But Yoshi says he does not require immersion, and it is forbidden to Zavim and Zavot, leader and women at childbirth, but it may be eaten at a table with a non-priest and may be given to any priest.
okay. And we are done.